Respect, understanding, reason, fairness. Long ago, all fandoms lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when Twitter attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, can stop toxic fandom. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. Which is why I'm here. My name is Ren, and this is my review of Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender. Welcome back, Bending family. Thank you for joining me to discuss one of the most highly anticipated series adaptations of this generation, set in a war-torn world where the four nations of water, earth, fire, and air once lived in harmony. We follow the story of Aang, the last living airbender, and the Avatar, who is the bridge between the mortal and spirit worlds and the only one capable of mastering all four elements to hopefully bring balance back to the world. A show that I myself and an entire generation of people have been anticipating and fearing. Not only does the original animated series mean so much to so many of us, but we have seen before how wrong a live action adaptation can go. From the trailers, to me, it was clear how dedicated, knowledgeable, and passionate both the on camera talent and behind the scenes crew were about this entire world, and they absolutely nailed bringing the world of Avatar to life. This is a spoiler-free review. We are not getting into specifics on the show as it just drops today on Netflix, but I found myself a very happy Avatar fan, even if I do have my small frustrations and issues with the show, which we will get to later in this video. But even with its flaws, as someone who is deeply passionate about the original animated series, I am not looking for a one-on-one adaptation in this show. I understand and respect and want things to be changed, to be shifted, as long as it doesn't damage the integrity of the story, its themes, or the characters. And I was in awe at how this show immaculately brought the world of Avatar to life. The scale, the set pieces, the political intrigue, the characters, the bending. This show does so much right with such clear passionate and reverence for the original source material. Even with the issues I have with this show, there's not an ounce of me that could be mad, despite recognizing how certain elements don't necessarily work as well in this live action. But the world, it's all there. The beautiful city of Omashu, the certain water tribe, all the grand vistas, the adventure our characters go on, you feel like you're immersed into this world, into its cultures, and the political structure of this entire show. Whenever you go on earthbending territory, you feel like you're in a completely different world than whenever you're aboard Zuko's ship, or you're in a Fire Nation city, or you're at the Southern Water Tribe in Wolf Cove with Katara and Sokka. Every environment feels lived in, and it grounds this world, allowing for that compelling, rich thematic depth of a world at war. The world building continues to be excellent in this show, and the bending, the action set pieces, choreography in general, it's excellent. The show immediately opens with an action sequence making a statement at how they will excel in adapting the action of Avatar: The Last Airbender into this live action world. Of course, they work a lot with CGI, but it's seamless, especially fire and water, the two trickiest elements. They do a fantastic job at blending them in, not only with the cast of characters, but with the world, with the practical on-camera stunts. But the directors, writers, cinematographers, the cast, and the entire stunt crew clearly understood how bending is not just a tool for fighting within the show, it is a reflection of the character's emotional state, and it speaks to their entire culture and their background. As much as the Fire Nation is an allegory to fascism, Everything else, the bending itself, whatever element characters have to bend, it speaks to who they are. And I believe Avatar The Last Airbender live action absolutely nailed it. This was, however, the least surprising aspect of the show for me. From the trailers, it was clear visually this show would be sensational. It plays in large scale and in intimate scope as well. I was constantly impressed, particularly in the latter half of the show, with how far they go and how well they capture the essence of the story. What I was more worried about was some commentary from the creators regarding specific character choices. And this show has a mostly young, unknown cast, and everyone does a fantastic job. Gordon Cormier as Aang is wonderful. This kid is a superstar. He is lively, he is filled with energy, he is just adorable on screen, exactly as Aang should come across. And he nails all the emotional complexities of a character such as Aang. And while I've been extremely worried for how this show would portray the character of Sokka, Ian Housley absolutely shines. He has the humor, he nails all the good jokes, he nails all the bad jokes, and he conveys all the insecurities and uncertainties Sokka has as a character. I love particularly seeing the growth in his performance, because being familiar with the animated series, I know where Sokka is going. I know what's the goal of this character, what's his arc. I'm familiar with it, but they didn't make it any less compelling, particularly when it comes to the performance. And the performance from Katara. None of these characters, however, are my favorite. The relationship, the individual dynamic they absolutely nailed to perfection is Zuko and Iroh. There is a lot more nuance, particularly in this relationship, that is evident in the first season. The first season of Avatar in the original handles it in a much more kiddie way and eventually grows with its audience, revealing complexities, nuance, morally gray details about its characters later on. Avatar The Last Airbender on Netflix starts as a much more nuanced show. It is a much more emotionally complex show filled with complicated characters, dealing with trauma, dealing with guilt, dealing with wanting something better for themselves and the world. Whenever an episode focuses on the relationship of Aro and Zuko, that is easily my favorite part of any episode. And a lot of that comes from the dynamic, the chemistry between Dallas Liu and Paul Son-Young Lee. They absolutely shine in these roles. They have been perfectly cast. I feel the entire Fire Nation has been perfectly cast. Daniel Dai Kim as Fire Lord Ozai. He's merciless. He's cold-hearted. He absolutely nails being the absolute incarnation of evil. Azula is probably the character that's handled the most differently in terms of what she does, her presence in season one. And I love just how much they test the knowledge of the audience regarding this character. Because the show takes Azula on such a different path, her entire presence in season one is so different than I was expecting, but it reaches such an interesting endpoint by the season's end. I cannot wait to see how they mold and transform her into the sadistic, psychopathic daddy's girl we all know and love. And whenever this show has changes, adapts the storylines, inserts elements that in the original series came much later on, but sprinkles them in, teases their presence. It's part of the world building, it's part of the DNA of this series. That's when I found this show to be at its most exciting and its most creative. I love mostly what this show did by rearranging certain events, repositioning certain characters, but that integrity, what their presence means to the story, how it makes us understand this entire world and people through our characters in such different ways. That's when the show excels. Precisely because it allows for the writers in this show to express their creativity. The original series didn't necessarily have a roadmap from the beginning. This show right now, they know what the end goal is, so they can reshuffle certain elements in this series, be it for characters, for story, for world building, and rearrange them in all new ways, making it feel like even though this is the same story, we can rearrange certain elements and begin to tease them, rewarding the audience with long term storytelling. However, there are choices in this show that do feel slightly rushed and underserving of the bigger scope of the story. Like I said, this is not a one-on-one adaptation. It shouldn't be. I love that filmmakers, the writers, the cast, they all have these creative liberties that come from reverence about the original, respect to it. It's a love letter, and it's not always going to work on the same level. I believe certain elements of Avatar's connection to his powers, to the previous avatars, are very mishandled, particularly in the earlier half of the show. And most of my issues in general are in the first half of the show. We all heard the comments the filmmakers had about Sokka, and to my surprise, it far from ruins the character. This is the same character we know and love, but there are elements, particularly in his storyline with Suki of the Kyoshi Warriors, that not all of it works well. Elements in Sokka's story, Sokka's goals, Sokka's decision making from adventure to adventure feel shortchanged, feel slightly rushed. It doesn't feel like he rises high enough or is taken down low enough. It all changes for me in episode 6. And even though I cannot dive into specifics as to why episode 6 and really the back half of the series made me fall in love with these versions of the characters, this version of this story, it really is when every single character parallels each other in some way. It's when everything comes to beautiful symmetry and everyone is in exactly the same point of achievement in their character arcs. All those great moments have a ripple effect afterwards. But as much as I did love these versions of the characters, it is a live action adaptation from an animated series. And so a lot of the humor, even though it's there, the heart of the characters, the heart of the show, the childlike wonder of Aang, of Katara, the innocence of Sokka, the stubbornness of Zuko, it's all there, but a lot of it is toned down. You can particularly notice it in Katara's character. There is so much that is taken away from her personality early on. She is essentially the mother of the group. She's the caretaker. And there's so little done with that early on, it damages the initial relationship of the trio. So to me, I didn't feel the trio truly came together to create that unshakable bond until around episode 4 or 5. But because they're shifting around, because they're adapting to a different medium, you lose slightly some of the initial charm that made the original series so special. Those heightened emotions, that slapstick, it worked because the show itself was so kid friendly to begin with. It slowly unraveled itself to be something more complex through the course of 20 episodes in a series. And while I admire the creativity taken to reshape a 20 episode long series of 20 minutes each, to compress it, to reshape it with so many added elements while removing others in an hour long 8 episode series, there are moments, there are elements, there are characters that don't get as much time on the spotlight, which understandably can disappoint some people. But the way they reshape elements in this show, the way we already know so much about certain characters in season 1, has me believe we will have more creative avenues even in season 2 and make this show feel even bigger, feel even bolder with its adaptation in fantastic ways. Because, like I said, when the show nails it for characters, for storytelling, for quality of the action, and of the richness of the themes of Avatar, this show has it all. It delivers it all in spades. By the end of this season, everything is so well put in place, despite my initial rejection of what feels new. I think this is a show that can surprise a lot of people familiar with the original series, even if at first these changes, these new elements don't necessarily work. That's what makes this adaptation so exciting. And speaking of making this show special, I interviewed the original voice of Toph and the original voice of Sokka at the red carpet premiere in Hollywood for Avatar: The Last Airbender last week. You can find that interview right up here. And I had a ton of fun. And I realized I'm perhaps using too many examples from the original animated series, but they are essential frames of reference for you to understand how and why I connect emotionally and critically with this show, how I experience it. But Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender is a wonderful first introduction to the world of Avatar. My good friend Mama's Geeky, who I was with at the premiere of Avatar: The Last Airbender last week, this first episode is her first introduction to the world, and she's in love. There's nothing but love, reverence for the original series while this show tries to create its own version of the story. And I think that's what more adaptations need to understand what makes these stories magical, immortal, and last for entire generations. And now an entire generation gets to experience Team Avatar, Prince Zuko, Uncle Aro, and all these wonderful stories for the first time. And I don't know if I've said it yet, but yes, Cabbage Man is back in this show. But those are just my thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender, a flawed but exciting adaptation of a timeless animated series. So it's time for you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. Which one was your favorite episode? Who is your favorite character? Have you seen the original series? Is this your first exposure to it? Anything and everything down there. And if you're enjoying this review, I've been reviewing a ton of TV shows so far this year, many more to come, as well as movies. So if you're enjoying what you're seeing, you want to talk more movies and TV with me, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. I can confidently say I fell in love with the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender all over again. The Netflix series forges its own path by bringing to life the breathtaking world building and sensational action, as well as the lovable characters and compelling dynamics in all new ways, while maintaining the richness, heart, depth, and integrity of the original. I'm giving Avatar: The Last Airbender a B+. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to start the conversation about Avatar: The Last Airbender in the comments below. Let me know which element you would love to bend. And I'll be back very soon in more videos. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.